The relentless rain of Tuesday night had given way to a Wednesday morning shrouded in a thick, oppressive fog, mirroring the pervasive sense of dread that hung over Weatherfield. The air was heavy with unspoken threats, shattered illusions, and the chilling certainty that the past was not just returning, but actively extracting its pound of flesh. Each strained conversation, every furtive glance, spoke of an escalating tension, a ticking clock counting down to inevitable confrontations. The stage was set, not for peace, but for the brutal consequences of yesterday's sins, where betrayals would unravel, and the fragile threads holding lives together would snap under the immense pressure of retribution. Theo Silverton's apartment, once a fortress of his calculated victory, now felt like a cage. The initial euphoria of getting Miles and Millie back had curdled into a bitter paranoia. He had won the custody battle, but the war with Noah was far from over. The online tabloid article, still buzzing with speculation, was a double-edged sword. It had forced Danielle's hand, but it had also painted Theo as a ruthless manipulator, attracting unwanted scrutiny. He paced restlessly, checking his phone every few minutes, his eyes darting to the windows. He knew Noah wouldn't simply disappear. Noah was a venomous snake, wounded and dangerous, waiting for the opportune moment to strike. The contingency file he had placed on Todd's USB, a cold, calculated insurance policy, now felt like a desperate gamble. His phone vibrated an unknown number. He hesitated, his heart hammering in his chest, before answering. A distorted, digitally altered voice crackled through the speaker, chilling him to the bone. "You play dirty, Theo. But you forget. Some secrets aren't just buried. They're protected." The call disconnected before Theo could respond, leaving him with a profound sense of terror. It wasn't Noah. It was someone else, someone more powerful, someone connected to the protected secret from Noah's past, a secret Theo had only superficially touched. The knock on his door startled him. It was Todd, his face pale, his eyes wide with a mixture of fear and accusation. He held the USB drive, a silent indictment. "Theo. What is this?" Todd's voice trembled. "What have you done?" Theo stared at him, a flicker of something desperate in his eyes. He had dragged Todd into his dangerous game, and now the consequences were beginning to unravel. He knew he had pushed too far, awakened a dormant beast. The chilling realization dawned on him: he was not the puppeteer, he was merely another pawn in a much larger, more dangerous game, and the true players were now coming for him. The cost of his victory, it seemed, would be far greater than he had ever anticipated. Carla Connor's composure had completely shattered. Becky's discovery of the Cinch diary, detailing a harrowing account of the fire and pointing to sabotage, was not just a threat, it was a detonation. The news had spread like wildfire through the factory, fueled by Lisa's increasingly wary glances and Ryan's bewildered concern. The whispers were no longer about Becky's return, but about Carla's alleged involvement in a past tragedy, a dark stain that threatened to consume her. In her office, Carla desperately tried to rationalize, to deflect. "It's a lie, Ryan. Becky's trying to discredit me. She's always been jealous." But her voice lacked conviction, her eyes darted nervously. Lisa, having spent a restless night wrestling with Becky's revelations, confronted Carla, her voice strained with a betrayal that cut Carla to the quick. "Is it true, Carla? Did you cause that fire? Was it to cover something up?" Carla stared at Lisa, her loyal lieutenant, her confidant, now looking at her with an unforgiving gaze. The truth, a venomous serpent, coiled in her throat. She couldn't deny it, not fully. She remembered the desperation, the panic, the single, reckless act that had spiraled into an inferno. The diary, she knew, held enough fragments of truth to condemn her. A cryptic message arrived on Carla's phone, an old photograph, badly faded, showing a younger Carla with Becky and another, far more influential figure from Weatherfield's past, a figure whose reputation was beyond reproach, whose charity foundations and public image were pristine. A message accompanied it: "The diary is just the beginning. The truth involves more than just a fire. It involves a cover-up, a powerful accomplice, and a secret that could bring down an empire. Becky's not looking for justice, Carla. She's looking for vengeance." Carla's blood ran cold. This wasn't just about her anymore. This was about a catastrophic ripple effect that would destroy not just her life, but the legacy of someone revered. Becky wasn't just playing a game, she was orchestrating a meticulously planned act of retribution, and Carla was merely the first domino to fall. The ghost of the past was not just haunting her, it was actively destroying her, piece by agonizing piece, and the real horror was realizing the extent of the conspiracy she had unwittingly become a part of. Abby Webster's desperate attempt to escape Carl's gilded cage had failed spectacularly. The locked door, Carl's menacing presence, and the ominous words "leaving so soon, Abby? I thought we were starting a new life," together had solidified her terrifying reality. She was a captive, trapped by a charming psychopath whose true nature was now fully exposed. Wednesday morning found Abby in a state of terrified resignation. Carl, ever the charming facade, brought her breakfast in bed, complete with fresh flowers. "No need to look so glum, darling," he purred, stroking her hair. "We're going to have a wonderful life. Just you and me." His words, once alluring, now sounded like a death knell. Abby's mind raced, desperately searching for an escape plan. She feigned compliance, trying to soothe Carl, to lull him into a false sense of security. She agreed to his plans, smiled at his jokes, all while her heart hammered against her ribs. She needed a moment, a distraction, anything to create an opportunity. As Carl stepped out to take a phone call, leaving his phone carelessly on the bedside table, Abby seized her chance. Her fingers fumbled, her heart pounding, as she tried to unlock his phone. He had a complex pattern lock. Panic began to set in. Just as she was about to give up, she remembered something Carl had idly mentioned, a sequence of numbers related to his lucky cricket score. A desperate guess, a frantic swipe, and the screen unlocked. Her eyes frantically scanned his messages. There were texts to various shadowy figures, discussing disposals, payments, and erasing tracks. But one message, from an unknown number, sent a chill down her spine. "Tracy Barlow's shop is done. Your other problem has been dealt with." "No one will find the car or the driver," Abby gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Not only had Carl trashed Tracy's shop, but he was responsible for the hit and run. He had ordered the attack on Tyrone, the very man who had befriended Kevin, the man who was now in critical condition. Carl was a monster, not just to her, but to innocent people. Just as she was about to call the police, Carl's footsteps sounded outside the door. Abby frantically locked his phone, placing it back on the table, her heart threatening to explode. She was no longer just trying to escape her captor, she was a witness to a far darker crime, a cold-blooded act of violence that implicated the man she had almost run away with. The gilded cage had become a death trap, and Abby knew, with a horrifying certainty, that she was in far deeper trouble than she could have ever imagined. Bernie Winter's apartment was a somber scene. Dev paced, wringing his hands, while Asha, her face still etched with shame and anger, retreated into herself. Kate Green's stark warning about the defamation lawsuit hung heavy in the air, a sword of Damocles dangling over Bernie's head. "You have to retract your statement, Bernie," Dev pleaded, his voice cracking with fear. "Apologize to Naomi. It's the only way to minimize the damage." But Bernie, though shaken, remained defiant. "I won't apologize for telling the truth, Dev. She abused Arasha. I saw it." Her voice was raw, but her resolve was unwavering. She may have been reckless, but she was not a liar. Later, Naomi's lawyer sent a formal letter, demanding a public apology and a substantial financial settlement. The figure quoted was astronomical, far beyond anything Bernie could ever hope to pay. The letter also hinted at further legal action, including a restraining order, effectively silencing Bernie forever. As Bernie stared at the letter, her hand trembling, a fierce resolve hardened her gaze. She was cornered, yes, but she was not broken. She may not have the law on her side, but she had truth, and the unwavering support of her family, even if Asha was still struggling to come to terms with her actions. She knew she couldn't fight Naomi in court, but there were other battlegrounds. She would find another way to expose Naomi, another way to seek justice for Asha, even if it meant walking a path fraught with danger and defying every legal warning. Her fight was far from over, it had simply moved from the public arena to the shadowy alleys of Weatherfield, a solitary warrior against a powerful, corrupt system. Evelyn Plummer continued her quiet vigil by Tyrone's hospital bed. Fizz, exhausted and emotional, finally broke down, confessing her fears to Evelyn. "I don't know what I'd do without him, Evelyn. And the police. They're getting nowhere. I just want to know who did this." Evelyn listened, her hand gently stroking Fizz's hair. She had made her peace with the past, with her decision to forego university, but a deeper, more personal pain lingered beneath her stoic exterior. She remembered a similar incident from her own past, a hit and run that had been covered up, a secret she had buried deep within her heart. The pain of that memory, so long suppressed, was now resurfacing, triggered by Tyrone's plight. Later, as she walked home, a shadowy figure emerged from the fog, startling her. It was a man she hadn't seen in decades, a man connected to that buried incident, his face etched with age and a chilling familiarity. "Evelyn," he rasped, his voice a ghost from her past. "I heard about Tyrone. A shame. But some things are best left undisturbed." He vanished as quickly as he appeared, leaving Evelyn with a profound sense of dread. The encounter solidified a horrifying suspicion. Tyrone's hit and run was not an isolated incident. It was connected to a much older, darker network, a network that Evelyn knew all too well. The man's chilling warning, his knowledge of Tyrone's accident, confirmed her worst fears. She now held a dangerous secret, a truth that connected Tyrone's suffering to her own buried trauma, a truth that could finally expose the criminals who had evaded justice for so long. But revealing it would put not just her, but her entire family, in grave danger. Evelyn, a woman of unyielding strength, found herself at a crossroads, forced to choose between the safety of silence and the perilous path of a long-delayed justice. Todd Grimshaw stared at the contingency file on the USB drive, his face a mask of horror. Theo's meticulous compilation of his past indiscretions, his vulnerabilities, was a chilling reminder of the manipulative power Theo wielded. The accompanying note, "Loyalty has its rewards, Todd. Betrayal has its consequences," was not a suggestion, it was a threat, a leash around his neck. He tried to go about his day at the Undertaker's, but his mind was a whirlwind of fear and moral conflict. He was an unwilling participant in Theo's increasingly dark schemes, and the secret he held could not only destroy Theo, but also implicate himself. He glanced at George, who was now deep in conversation with Christina about the intricacies of casket linings, a bizarrely normal scene amidst Todd's internal turmoil. Later, Todd found himself alone with Maria, the only person he felt he could confide in, even if indirectly. "Maria," he began, his voice strained, have you ever felt like you're doing something wrong, but you can't stop? Like you're trapped in a situation you didn't choose?" Maria, sensing his distress, looked at him with concern. "What's going on, Todd? You can tell me anything." But Todd couldn't. Not yet. He couldn't betray Theo, not with a sword of Damocles hanging over his head. The weight of the secret, the knowledge of Theo's dark actions and the threat of exposure, pressed down on him. He was Theo's unwitting accomplice, a silent partner in crime, and the only way out seemed to lead to either his own destruction or a catastrophic betrayal. Todd, caught between fear and a burgeoning moral crisis, knew he had to choose, and the choice would determine not just his fate, but perhaps the fate of others caught in Theo's destructive wake. Jenny Connor's jealousy had transformed into a simmering resentment. Christina Midgley's triumphant bake sale entry, her easy charm with George, had wounded Jenny's pride deeply. The battle for George's attention was no longer subtle, it was a cold war, fought with veiled compliments and subtle digs. At the Rovers, Jenny couldn't resist. "George, darling," she cooed, her eyes narrowing at Christina, who was holding court at the bar. "I hope Christina's unique flair for themed funerals extends to taste. One wouldn't want a death by cake scenario at a wake, would one?" The veiled insult hung in the air, recognized by everyone except George, who merely chuckled, missing the barbed undertone. Christina, however, was not easily rattled. She approached Jenny, a polite smile on her face, but a steely glint in her eyes. "Oh, Jenny," she purred, "I assure you, my cakes are as exquisite as my arrangements. Perhaps you should try one. You might find a little sweetness could brighten your disposition." The thinly veiled insult, delivered with effortless grace, sent a fresh wave of fury through Jenny. Later, Jenny discovered that George had discreetly offered Christina a more permanent, part-time position at the Undertaker's, citing her exceptional talent and natural empathy. The news hit Jenny like a punch to the gut. Christina wasn't just a fleeting rival, she was becoming a fixture, a permanent presence in George's life and business. The jealousy intensified, morphing into a potent grudge, a desire to undermine Christina, to reclaim her territory. Jenny, usually so confident, found herself in the throes of a petty but deeply felt rivalry, threatening to turn Weatherfield's beloved Undertaker into an unwitting battleground. Adam Barlow and Ollie Nazir's late-night investigation at the law office had yielded a terrifying breakthrough. The discovery of a custom car part linking Tyrone's hit-and-run to a shadowy garage owner with criminal ties was a game-changer. The puzzle pieces clicked into place, revealing a sinister network of organized crime. "This isn't just about Tyrone anymore, Ollie," Adam said, his voice grim. "This is big. This guy. He's running a car chop shop, probably involved in a lot more than just hit-and-runs." As they were about to leave, Adam noticed a faint, almost imperceptible red light blinking in the corner of the office, partially hidden by a potted plant. His blood ran cold. It was a sophisticated listening device. They had been watched. Their breakthrough wasn't a secret, it was now a dangerous liability. They quickly disabled the device, their faces etched with fear. Someone knew they were closing in. Someone powerful and ruthless. The garage owner wasn't just a small-time criminal, he was connected to a larger, more dangerous organization that had infiltrated even their supposedly secure legal offices. The walk home through the fog-laden streets was fraught with tension. Every shadow seemed to hold a lurking threat. Adam and Ollie knew they had stumbled onto something far more dangerous than they could have imagined. They were no longer just lawyers seeking justice, they were targets, having unwittingly declared war on a criminal underworld that would stop at nothing to protect its secrets. The quiet pursuit of truth had morphed into a perilous fight for their lives, and the fog-shrouded streets of Weatherfield had become a hunting ground, where they were the prey. As Wednesday deepened into a night of swirling fog and chilling revelations, Weatherfield braced itself for the seismic shifts now in motion. Theo, a pawn in a larger game, felt the tightening grip of a new, unseen enemy. Carla, haunted by her past, watched her empire crumble under the weight of Becky's vengeance. Abby, a terrified prisoner, uncovered a horrific truth about her captor. Bernie, defiant yet vulnerable, prepared for a solitary battle against a powerful legal machine. Evelyn, burdened by a resurfacing past, contemplated a dangerous path to justice. Todd, caught in Theo's web, grappled with a secret that could destroy him. Jenny, consumed by a petty but potent rivalry, fought for her place, while Adam and Olya, having stumbled upon a dangerous conspiracy, became targets in a deadly game. The fog, thick and unforgiving, seemed to cling to the streets, obscuring not just the physical landscape, but the very moral compass of the town. The quiet lives of Weatherfield had been irrevocably altered, their futures shrouded in uncertainty, their destinies intertwined with the dark forces that had been unleashed. The next episode promises to be a heart-stopping descent into the unknown, where alliances will be tested, sacrifices will be demanded, and the true cost of secrets and desires will be revealed in a shocking, unforgettable display of human frailty and terrifying resilience. Don't dare to miss a single, breath-holding moment, for the very soul of Weatherfield hangs in the balance, threatened by the shadows of its past and the chilling retribution of its present. The cobbled streets of Weatherfield, usually a canvas of mundane life, now shimmered with an unsettling tension, a silent prelude to the storm brewing beneath its quaint facade. The very air crackled with unspoken secrets, shattered trust, and the intoxicating scent of revenge. As dawn painted the sky with hues of bruised purple and fiery orange, a new day dawned, not with promise, but with the chilling inevitability of destinies colliding, tearing lives asunder, and leaving an indelible mark on the souls of its inhabitants. The aftermath of Theo Silverton's custody hearing had left him not just defeated, but utterly hollowed. The sterile courtroom, once a battleground for his parental rights, now felt like a mausoleum for his hopes. Noah's smug grin, a venomous serpent coiling in his memory, fueled a nascent rage within Theo, a fire that threatened to consume him whole. He paced his apartment, the silence a deafening roar, punctuated only by the phantom echoes of Todd's frustrated lunge and the barrister's scathing accusations. "They think I'm a monster," he whispered to the empty room, his voice raw with a pain that bordered on madness. "They think I hurt Miles. But it was an accident. A bloody accident." He clutched his head, the images flashing before his eyes, the frantic struggle, Miles's terrified scream, and the sickening thud. He wasn't a violent man, not truly, but the relentless pressure, Noah's insidious taunts, and Danielle's unwavering scorn had pushed him to the brink. Now, standing on the precipice of losing his children forever, a dangerous thought began to fester. What if he embraced the monster they so readily perceived him to be? Later, as Theo sat alone in the bistro, the clinking of glasses and the distant murmur of laughter felt like a cruel mockery. Noah appeared, a shadowy specter materializing from the gloom, his eyes gleaming with a predatory satisfaction. "Still fighting for a lost cause, Theo?" Noah sneered, his voice dripping with condescension. "Danielle won't back down. Not when she knows what you truly are." The homophobic jibes that followed were merely salt in Theo's gaping wounds. But Theo, with a newfound, chilling composure, merely stared through Noah, his gaze distant, unseeing. It was this silence, this unnerving lack of reaction, that unnerved Noah more than any outburst. As Noah left, a sense of unease gnawed at him. There was something different about Theo, a stillness that spoke of a storm gathering, not dissipating. The shocking news from Danielle later that evening, relayed through a terse phone call, confirmed Noah's fears. She had dropped the custody case. Not because she had a change of heart, but because of a mysterious, veiled threat that had shaken her to her core. The cryptic message spoke of exposing a secret from Noah's past, a dark stain he believed was buried forever. Who was behind this? And what new depths was Theo willing to plumb to reclaim his children? The game, it seemed, had just begun, and the stakes were higher than anyone could have imagined. The return of Becky Swain had cast a long, disquieting shadow over Carla Connor's carefully constructed world. The woman she had mourned, the sister she thought lost forever, was now a tangible, unsettling presence, a ghost made flesh. Carla's assurances to Ryan about trusting Lisa implicitly rang hollow, even to her own ears. The seed of doubt, planted by Ryan's innocent question about Becky, had taken root, coiling around her heart like a parasitic vine. Lisa, trapped between loyalty to Carla and the bewildering reappearance of her sister, found herself caught in a moral labyrinth. Betsy's innocent suggestion for Lisa to help Becky move her belongings felt like a cruel twist of fate, forcing an intimacy she wasn't ready for. As Lisa and Becky sat in the car, stalled by a sudden fuel shortage, the forced proximity became a crucible for unspoken truths. Becky, with a disconcerting casualness, began to dissect Carla, peeling back layers of their shared past, revealing a side of Carla that Lisa had never known. Becky's memories were laced with bitterness, recounting betrayals and manipulations that painted Carla in a far darker light than Lisa had ever perceived. Lisa listened, a growing sense of dread coiling in her stomach. Could the woman she admired, the woman she trusted, be capable of such deception? Meanwhile, Carla, wrestling with her own escalating paranoia, found herself haunted by glimpses of Becky, a fleeting shadow in the cafe window, a distant laughter carried on the wind. She saw Becky everywhere, a constant, chilling reminder of a past she desperately wanted to keep buried. Her conversation with Ryan, where she declared her unwavering trust in Lisa, felt like a desperate incantation against the rising tide of her own fear. But Ryan's question, innocent though it was, had prized open a Pandora's box of unease. Do you trust Becky to the same degree? Carla's masked unease was a performance for Ryan, but inwardly, a cold dread seized her. The more Becky resurfaced, the more vulnerable Carla felt. She knew Becky held secrets, dark truths about their shared history, secrets that could unravel everything Carla had built. The phone call where Carla, with chilling conviction, instructed Becky to go back to playing dead, was not a plea, but a desperate command, a stark illustration of the lengths Carla would go to protect her fragile empire. But Becky, a phoenix risen from the ashes, was not easily deterred. She had returned for a reason, and her vengeful gaze was fixed firmly on Carla. Kevin's all clear from cancer should have been a moment of unbridled joy, a celebration of life renewed. Instead, for Abby, it was a moment of suffocating dread. His heartfelt words about growing old together, once a comforting melody, now echoed like a death knell, a stark reminder of the intricate web of lies she had woven around them. Her unease was a visible shroud, a stark contrast to Kevin's radiant relief. The meeting with Carl, meant to bring clarity, only plunged her deeper into the quagmire of deceit. I hate this double life, she confessed, her voice barely a whisper, the words tasting like ash in her mouth. Lying to Kevin. It's tearing me apart. Carl, ever the charming manipulator, offered reassurances, but his eyes held a glint of something darker, something possessive. Back home, Kevin's innocent suggestion of spending their retirement doing up old cars, a dream they had once shared, became the final nail in the coffin of their marriage. Abby, gathering every ounce of courage, delivered the bombshell, her words shattering the fragile peace. I think we should break up. The words hung in the air, heavy and irreversible, a declaration of war on their shared future. Kevin's stunned silence, his heartbroken gaze, was a punishment Abby felt she deserved, a chilling precursor to the pain she was about to unleash. But the true horror unfolded with Tracy Barlow. Abby, believing Carl's fabricated sob story, thanked Tracy for backing off. Tracy's subsequent revelation was a punch to the gut, a cold, hard dose of reality that ripped away Carl's veneer of charm. Carl got someone to trash my shop, Tracy seethed, her eyes blazing with fury, and threatened to hurt my dad. Abby's blood ran cold. The man she was running away with, the man she believed loved her, was a dangerous, violent monster. The hotel bedroom, once a clandestine haven, now felt like a gilded cage. Abby, nestled beside Carl, uttered the words that sealed her fate. It's time for us to run away together and start a new life. Carl's attempt to make light of the situation was a flimsy disguise for his true intentions. His eyes, devoid of genuine affection, held a chilling possessiveness. Abby was no longer a partner in love, she was a pawn in his dangerous game, a hostage in her own life. The walls of the hotel room seemed to close in, and Abby, trapped, felt the icy tendrils of fear coil around her heart. Bernie Winter, a force of nature in her own right, was a woman on a mission, her heart burning with a fierce, protective love for Asha. Dev's admission about Asha's withdrawal, her retreat into the confines of her room, only solidified Bernie's resolve. The careers fair, initially a benign opportunity, became a stage for Bernie's righteous fury. Asha, persuaded by Bernie, walked into the hotel blissfully unaware that the guest speaker, a beacon of professional success, was the very woman who had inflicted such profound emotional wounds upon her. The confrontation was inevitable, a collision of past trauma and present injustice. Asha's raw recounting of Naomi's drunken abuse, the humiliation, the spitting, was met with Naomi's stone-faced denial, her chilling dismissal of unfounded allegations. The tears Asha shed upon her return were not just tears of pain, but of a burning indignation that ignited Bernie's already simmering fury. She played dumb, Asha choked out, her voice laced with despair. Those words were a catalyst, transforming Bernie from a concerned guardian into an avenging angel. She stormed out, a woman possessed, her path set on a collision course with Naomi. The careers fair, meant to inspire and empower, morphed into a spectacle of chaos. Bernie, with a dramatic flourish, interrupted Naomi's polished speech, her voice booming with righteous indignation. "This woman," Bernie declared, her finger pointed accusingly at Naomi, "abused Asha, a paramedic and a woman of color." The shocked gasps, the murmurs of disbelief, the flashing phone cameras of Nina and Amy, it was a scene ripped from a dramatic thriller. Ryan, aghast, scrambled to halt the event, but the damage was done. The video, a testament to Naomi's past cruelty, was already going viral, a wildfire spreading across social media. Asha's reaction, however, was not one of gratitude. "You interfered," she raged, her voice shaking with a mix of shame and anger. Bernie's well-intentioned intervention had backfired spectacularly, leaving Asha feeling more exposed and vulnerable than ever. The climax arrived with Naomi's dramatic entrance into number 7. "I'm suing Bernie for defamation," Naomi announced, her eyes blazing with a cold fury, a stark contrast to Bernie's righteous fire. The legal battle was not just about reputation. It was about power, about silencing a voice of truth, and about the devastating consequences of unchecked rage. Bernie, armed with Kate Green's sobering assessment about the difficulty of bringing charges, felt the cold grip of fear. Her crusade for justice had taken a dangerous, unforeseen turn, threatening to engulf her in a legal nightmare she couldn't possibly win. Evelyn Plummer, a woman of sharp wit and unwavering resolve, found her carefully constructed world shaken to its foundations by Tyrone's devastating hit-and-run. The accident, a stark reminder of life's fragility, forced her to reevaluate her own future, to confront the choices she had made and the dreams she had quietly nurtured. The disappointment she masked from Fizz about giving up university was not merely about finances or age, it was a profound acknowledgement of a life irrevocably altered. The intellectual stimulation, the vibrant campus life she had secretly longed for, now seemed a frivolous indulgence in the face of such profound tragedy. The hit-and-run, a brutal intrusion into their lives, had stolen not just Tyrone's physical well-being, but also Evelyn's sense of security, her belief in a predictable future. As she sat by Tyrone's hospital bedside, the sterile environment a stark contrast to the lively debates she had envisioned, Evelyn felt a poignant sense of loss. The books she had bought, the essays she had mentally composed, now lay gathering dust, symbols of a path she would no longer walk. The decision to forego university was a quiet sacrifice, a testament to her deep love for Tyrone and her unwavering commitment to their family. But beneath the surface of stoic acceptance, a quiet grief lingered, a mournful whisper for the future that might have been. The weight of her decision pressed upon her, a heavy mantle of responsibility, as she faced a future irrevocably reshaped by the echoes of a violent crime. Todd Grimshaw, a man perpetually caught in the gravitational pull of Theo's chaotic orbit, found himself a silent witness to his friend's unraveling. Theo's excited pronouncements about Miles and Millie's arrival, followed by the frantic demands to make the flat spick and span, were a cruel performance for Todd, who knew the truth of Theo's desperation. Todd's forced upbeat demeanor was a flimsy mask, hiding the genuine sorrow he felt for Theo, and perhaps, a deeper, unspoken longing for a connection that remained perpetually out of reach. The brutal truth, delivered by Millie with a child's devastating honesty, "The only reason we've come to visit is because they're legally required to see him," was a dagger to Theo's already fragile heart. Todd watched, helpless, as Theo's face crumpled, the last vestiges of hope draining from his eyes. The pain Theo felt was palpable, a silent scream that resonated deep within Todd's own soul. His conversation with Maria, where he confessed his mystification at Theo's reaction to Noah's news, was a desperate attempt to make sense of the senseless. All he ever did was make Theo's life a misery, Todd mused, trying to reconcile Theo's new, chilling composure with the man he knew. But as Theo, a dark shadow, listened from the periphery, his face darkening with a dangerous intensity, Todd unknowingly stirred a dormant beast. Theo's silence was not indifference, it was the coiled stillness of a predator, planning its next move. Todd, in his loyalty and unwitting observation, had become a pawn in Theo's increasingly perilous game, a silent accomplice to a future fraught with unseen dangers. Jenny Connor, usually a woman of unwavering confidence, found herself grappling with an unfamiliar emotion, jealousy. Her casual invitation to George for lunch, a simple gesture of affection, was met with a flimsy excuse about cleaning the funeral parlor. A flicker of suspicion ignited within Jenny, a tiny spark of unease that quickly fanned into a low flame. Her spontaneous visit to the undertaker's, mop in hand, was meant to be a loving gesture, a playful call to action. Instead, she found George, not alone, but engaged in animated conversation with Christina Midgley, a woman whose mere presence seemed to radiate an unsettling charm. Christina, with her easy laughter and effortless manner, seemed to effortlessly usurp Jenny's place, transforming George from her attentive companion into a jovial collaborator.